My name is Nassime Saabs.
Cannot swords be turned to plowshares? Can we and all nations not live in peace? In our obsession with antagonisms of the moment, we often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bond. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
It's hard to get serious about this whole thing because it's so surreal. I mean, most people, when it comes to spiritual things like this, they kind of run. They don't want to think about it. They get frightened by it, or they get intimidated, or it's not part of their general thinking. So when we talk about spirituality and spiritual phenomena like this, it's hard to get it out and talk to people about it. I'd like to talk about some of the things that you've filmed and get into some of the specifics so that we can get a more detailed understanding of what is actually happening here and this phenomena that you say, and what Google Earth is telling us, is worldwide. What is very difficult to understand by the human mind is how holographic images seem to be able to work. We can't seem to wrap our mind around the idea that something can change from one form to another in this physical realm. We're used to seeing stuff like that in the movies, but in actuality, that's another story. What you're about to see will be a demonstration of how that can take place in the natural realm. Or whatever is behind these remarkable images we're seeing seems to be able to use existent life forms to sculpt holographic images.
That looks to me like another reptilian type of a head. It actually looks like it's looking around as frame by frame as you move forward. It looks like it's actually checking out the area.
Almost like that's the guidance system for the UFO, which is masquerading as an airplane.
And you mentioned it earlier that these seem to be entities actually morphing or disguising themselves as UFOs. And you're talking about something that deceives people.
That's a great shot right there.
Visible are the lights, and they very well may be real in this physical realm.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to use those lights and morph from those lights.
Yeah. Using physical light to superimpose
Exactly.
holographic images. You know, after seeing all of these things, all of these images, the Google Earth stuff, and even the stuff that I've shot, because it's hard to accept this. It's unbelievable.
Absolutely.
You know, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, eat this book, it'll be sweet to your taste and bitter in your stomach. And that was a scripture that was given in the book of Revelation in the 10th chapter, where John's eating this book. And the idea of it is that some of these things are really sweet. They taste good. They're interesting. You know, you want more. But when it comes to telling it, the telling of the spiritual world is difficult because people simply do not want to believe there's a spiritual world. And as you see these things, whether you want to believe it or not, it's certainly a fascinating, interesting phenomena that's happening that speaks of a spiritual dimension that most people aren't even aware of or don't even want to consider. So you be the judge. You decide on what this means.
You know, studying these UFOs and watching them for many years, I've come to find out that these things like energy spots, power plants seem to be the intergalactic gas station, if you will. I noticed that these UFOs would actually hover over some electrical power plants, and sometimes they would gather up so much energy that they would start to steam. And studying this type of phenomenon, I'd come to find out that these mountains, South Mountain is one of them, was created by a fault line. And these fault lines generate a type of energy. And this would explain on the reasons why these UFOs like mountains so much, especially the ones with the fault lines, is because they're absorbing the energy that the fault lines are producing.
Some kind of the way I put it, it's some kind of an interdimensional transference of one reality that seems to be bleeding into another, because